Number 5, the box of spiders. Now, of course, this is a favorite of kobolds, a large wooden box filled to the brim with spiders. It is suspended above a doorway or some other entrance like that, and there's a tripwire that the players can get a pretty easy check depending on the level of your players. These, of course, are traps for lower level players, so I assume mostly around like a 12 would be a reasonable number to have for spotting a trap like this. Maybe even a 10, depending on what the area is like. Of course, if the players see the trap, it's relatively easy to disarm, but perhaps they'll wonder, like, what's in this giant wooden box suspended in the air? In which case, they might accidentally let all the spiders out. But this is a giant wooden box of spiders. So I consider this akin to the fireball spell where, you know, the box comes down, spiders just go everywhere within a 10-foot radius of where the thing dropped. So pretty much anybody standing there is going to get spiders on them. So I kind of forego the dexterity save for this one, because a lot of traps are dexterity save. And I go right to, you're going to get a spider on you. There's no avoiding it. So this is a constitution check. And you can either do something like daze or perhaps a small amount of damage. I like to do the old-fashioned 1d4 or 2d4 damage about this. This is more of a nuisance than any real sort of thing. You also consider it making it into kind of like a monster trap where the box of spiders explodes and then there's a percentile chance whether or not there'll be a spider swarm there to destroy your players. But that's something you'll have to consider. Number 4. This is the Jet of Disgusting Liquid. Now, this is a trap that is a dexterity save check. It's basically kind of a pressurized jet of disgusting liquid that will leave the player feeling disgusting. He might get diseased, he might get poisoned. In my particular campaign, this was actually rotting mushroom residue, and the result was that the mushroom men, or myconoids, I don't know how you pronounce that. The mushroom men in the next room would be immediately attracted to the player that got spritzed with the disgusting oil. So they would all just kind of crowd around him and try to figure out what was going on. Now, the players didn't know that the mushroom men were essentially harmless in this case. They were just wondering what this weird scent was coming from this one player, but yes, but all sorts of interesting stuff. The player could stink so much that the goblins would be able to smell them, and they'd make it more difficult for them to sneak up. Or it could be just a disgusting thing that fellow NPCs might be so disgusted by the smell that the player character would have difficulty passing charisma checks. So the Jet of Disgusting Oil. This is, again, generally going to be on a doorway or perhaps just in the mouth of a statue, or it might be a jet in the bottom of the floors if you step on the wrong tile. This pressurized jet of disgusting oil will step up. Now, again, this is probably a trap that's pretty difficult to spot. So probably, a check of about 15 to spot it. But it would be somewhat easy to escape. So relatively simple, like 12, 15 decks, depending on level. Number 3. Explosive Ruins. Oh, what an amazing trap this is. Explosive Ruins can be used in a remarkable number of ways. Basically, the concept is that they're magical ruins that cause an explosion when somebody reads them. It's an amazing thing. People, sometimes cultists can use this if they have like a book of secrets that they don't want anybody else reading. There are certain sections in the book that all the cultists know to avoid, but anybody who's not in the cult wouldn't know to avoid it, so they would just turn to page 2 and read these ruins, which then would just cause the entire book to explode outward. It's an interesting concept. I know that just having explosive ruins on a door instead of a regular lock system is interesting. But then you want to really keep this one a little bit. You don't want to use explosive runes too much, because then your players will get into the habit of avoiding any sort of written word, which is not really something that you want for a game of D&D. Certainly, having players that are cautious is one thing, but then having players that are completely illiterate is another. Number 2 favorite trap, the snake trap. I love this one. I've actually had a lot of fun doing just a snake trap where like the players are delving into an ancient pyramid buried deep underneath the ground, and the snake traps are actually a free pass. Because in my game, when players were triggered or trapped, it'd be a random trap. But if it might be a snake trap, in which case the snakes, of course, would be long dead and mummified and desiccated. And the snakes, it'd be the classic pyramid trap of a basket of snakes falling on the players, but the snakes would be long dead. So it was kind of like a free pass. If the players tripped a random trap, there would be a chance that they would just get covered in ancient dead snakes that really wouldn't do anything other than make them feel bad for the snakes, maybe. This was an idea I got from the Thrilling Adventure Hour. And finally, number 1, the number 1 trap I've been using recently for players is the rickety old door. Oh, you would not believe how well this worked for my games. In one of my games, the players are put into a complex that has various doors that they can open to go to, different challenge rooms. And at the end of the hallway, there's this rickety wooden door. This just rickety, very weak-looking wooden door. And I'm telling you, 50% of the players just went right up to that door and just kicked it open. Now, the unfortunate thing about that is that the door is actually rigged with explosive acid. So if the players kick down the door, 2 glass containers of chemicals would combine, and the resulting explosion would do acid and just generalized damage to the entire area. It's a very fun trap because there's absolutely no reason why players would run up and just kick a door, but it just seemed like this weird thing because like I've run this like probably a half a dozen times, and 3 out of the 6 times there was one player, upon seeing just a rickety wooden door, their first instinct is just to run up to that door and just kick it down as fast as possible without looking at it at all. And of course that would trigger the acid explosion, which would cause all sorts of issues. Now, of course, you don't want to have like a too high of a damage on this, but I think maybe like, a 3d4, a 2d4, something like that. If you're dealing with level 1 characters, you might want to adjust that a little bit. And of course, this would be a dexterity check to avoid half of the damage that exploded outward from this door. So again, those are my current top 5 favorite low-level traps to have in D&D 5e. Now, I know they came out with the Arcana about traps, and they've got a lot of really good ideas out there. If you have any ideas for traps that worked out well for you, please let me know in the comments.
Yeah, Pink Omega. Pink Omega. 1 bad chef in a kitchen full of dough. 3 bad bitches with their hands on a stove. Making home movies with a hand full of stoves. I'm cooking all the dumplings. I'm cooking all the dumplings. Motherfuckers wanna act funny, try to be a man when he knows all runny. Go to pre-K, put your bag in your cubby. Motherfucking gimmick like your man Jeff Dunny. But who am I to talk, making preteens laugh for the money? Act dumb, slicker than honey.